For our movie assignment, we decided to watch An Inconvenient Truth. This was an eye-opening film that followed Al Gore around as he did presentations that addressed the dangers of global warming. In the film, the juxtaposition of beautiful images of nature with images of its destruction emphasize that the time for action is now. Al Gore describes that we must take responsibility for this environmental catastrophe and make genuine efforts to reduce the negative impact we are having. Several themes are explored throughout this film, including that we are responsible for global warming, that we are already seeing its effects, and that we must actively seek ways to work towards a more sustainable Earth. Gore includes staggering statistics and images that show exactly how we are polluting our Earth and what the effects of that have been. Some of the issues already happening worldwide due to global warming are the melting of polar ice caps, shrinking of Lake Chad, bleaching of coral reefs, and extinction of many species. As much as Gore uses scare tactics to force viewers to recognize the hole we have dug for ourselves, this film is also optimistic. At the end of the movie, Gore discusses that it is possible to turn this situation around. He gives several examples of how we can individually make small changes that will collectively make a significant difference. For example, he suggests finding ways to reduce our carbon emissions, buying energy-efficient appliances, recycling, and other simple lifestyle changes. Through communication about the issue, activism, and serious efforts to generate change, we can hopefully reverse some of this damage and redirect our path. This is one of the clips from the movie that we felt perfectly demonstrated the critical state of our Earth.
Here's what the temperature has been on our Earth. Now, one thing that kind of jumps out at you is when there is more carbon dioxide, the temperature gets warmer because it traps more heat from the sun inside. This is the difference between a nice day and having a mile of ice over your head. Keep that in mind when you look at this fact. Carbon dioxide, having never gone above 300 parts per million, here is where CO2 is now. Way above where it's ever been as far back as this record will measure. Now, if you'll bear with me, I want to really emphasize this point. It's already right here. Look how far above the natural cycle this is, and we've done that. Here's what it's going to be in less than 50 years. You've heard of off the charts. Within less than 50 years, it'll be here. There's not a single fact or date or number that's been used to make this up that's in any controversy. Ultimately, this is really not a political issue so much as a moral issue. If we allow that to happen, it is deeply unethical.
An Inconvenient Truth highlights a number of issues that are clearly intended to spark activism for environmental sustainability. Many people, including those who deny Al Gore's theories, are responding to the provocative issues he raises. We are shown pictures of retreating glaciers and ice caps taken only a few decades apart, carefully documented stats about where the glaciers were a couple of thousand years ago, what it was like in the mid-1900s, and the increasing speed of deterioration since then. This provokes a strong reaction that directly challenges the common belief held by many that we are much too small to have any significant impact on the environment. This is a notion that Gore strongly tried to disprove throughout the documentary. We are also introduced to a number of unexpected weather patterns that we have experienced in the early 21st century. He uses examples such as Hurricane Katrina and the tsunami in Southeast Asia in 2004 to explain how the growing prevalence of these natural disasters are a result of global warming. Gore uses graphs and statistics to prove his points. The carbon dioxide levels directly correlate to the temperature rise, which caused droughts and the receding of glaciers and lakes. When the curve is drawn out, you can see it much more starkly. He clearly shows us the consequences of our current actions, that we will continue the sharp downward trend in sustainability of our world if we do nothing. By using such clear images, many people feel a sense of responsibility, and this is when environmental activism sparks. One of Gore's biggest platforms is considering the future and the world we leave behind for our children. What is our responsibility to the next generation? What kind of world are we leaving them? He argued that it's really an ethical issue rather than a political one. It's irresponsible and unethical for us to leave this disaster behind. Again, this is a dramatic and clearly provocative message. No question, he was trying to instigate activism, to wake us up and to get us out of a foggy, insular mindset. This film is commonly shown to children in middle school on field trips or as part of science class. While predominantly targeted for an adult audience, even young children and adolescents are able to empathize with this film. My 11-year-old self probably didn't understand all the issues that the movie raised, yet I worried about the polar bears and I was inspired by the volunteers and activists that helped the survivors of Katrina and the tsunami. In class, teachers are able to use it as a way to spark conversation, to encourage environmental friendly habits, or even better, environmental activism.
The very first time I saw the documentary was when I was 13 years old. I admit that I was extremely naive to the world around me, especially surrounding the state of the environment. One of my preconceived notions after watching the film was that the political figures were only activists for the environment because of a hidden agenda, such as winning the presidential election. However, Al Gore made this documentary after he ran for president in 2000. He used his political and social platforms to discuss issues that he was truly passionate about. For example, Gore discusses his disappointment in Congress with regards to environmental concerns. He says, quote, "I had such faith in our democratic system, our self-government, I actually thought and believed that the story would be compelling enough to cause a real sea change in the way the Congress reacted to the issue. I thought they would be startled too, and they weren't," end quote. He goes on to talk about how the defeats can serve to magnify the significance of steps forward and to exaggerate the importance of the setback. I think this film has a huge impact on our culture, specifically because this film targeted the North American nations. This documentary put an environmental degradation in an American perspective and also showcased the impact that our culture has had on the entire global crisis.
The film starts by presenting the facts of the climate change issue and ends with a call to action. It presents both political and individual ways to get involved and help deal with this issue. The film left people with feelings of both hope and despair. An Inconvenient Truth showed the need for over-explaining and having strong scientific evidence to support an argument. Despite the overwhelming evidence that anthropogenic climate change is occurring, there is still doubt within the public. The film advocates for its cause using a good deal of scientific fact infused with emotional reactions to these facts. An Inconvenient Truth is effective in stressing the impact of global warming on the environment. An Inconvenient Truth has an inspiring message that certainly raises awareness about climate change and what we can be doing to stop it. However, this film was released in 2006, and when looking at the impact of the film, it is important to consider what came after it. Inconvenient Youth is a teen-driven organization that focuses on what teenagers can do to help lead our society to a sustainable future that was founded based on an inconvenient truth. Al Gore continues to advocate for climate change, and An Inconvenient Truth was credited for raising further awareness for global warming internationally.
This documentary inspired all of us. At the end of the film, Al Gore suggests a number of small changes that each of us can make in our everyday lives that will collectively improve the state of our Earth. Little things, from turning off lights to time thermostats, while may seem insignificant, will go a long way. The message that Gore is trying to get across is that we need to stop thinking on an individual level and begin to see our world as a whole.